So you're all too young to remember that volunteerism and the idea of volunteering didn't have a great history in the communist period, because volunteering didn't always really mean volunteering. You know, the joke was you were volunteered for something. You had to do it because you were asked to do it. It wasn't something that you chose to do. And I think that's part of the importance and the genius of the program that we're all involved in today, which is to talk about the spirit of volunteerism in Poland. I've been in Poland now for 2.5 years, and I can tell you that people in Poland are very, very generous and very, very eager to help each other. And so it's a natural place to develop a culture of volunteerism despite the communist past. Let me tell you a little bit about the United States and a little bit about my own experience. So America's a really busy place, particularly where I grew up. I grew up outside of New York City. I've got 2 little kids, one's 5 and one's 8. When we're not in Poland, we live just outside Washington, D.C. We're busy. My wife is a journalist. I work in the government, and so we're busy, and it's hard to find time to volunteer, but it really is part of the culture of what we do, and people do all sorts of interesting things. In the United States, about 1 in 5 people are volunteers or do some kind of volunteer work. It's about 60 million people, or that's what my friend and colleague Frankie Strum tells me. That's a lot of people, 8 billion hours of volunteer work. And people do all different kinds of things. And I've always found the easiest way to volunteer was through programs that were organized so that I could just plug into them. So when I was 10 years old, I volunteered to run a carnival in my backyard to raise money to fight muscular dystrophy. Do you know what muscular dystrophy is? It's a disabling disease that was somewhat common and still is in the United States and doesn't have a cure, that affects people's muscles. And so as kids get older, they become weaker, and usually by the time of their 20s, they're terribly disabled. And this was great because I could, I sent away to a place that was organizing this, the Muscular Dystrophy Foundation. They had all sorts of games and suggestions for games I could put in my backyard. I enlisted all of my friends in my neighborhood to run the different games. And we made a lot of money. This was a long time ago. I think I raised $100 for muscular dystrophy, and I was very, very proud of it. Then when I got a little bit older, in university, in college, we had a fieldwork program where I went to school. And it was great because the fieldwork, which was really a fancy way to say volunteer work, the fieldwork gave you college credit. So you didn't have to sit in the classroom. You could get outside and do something. And I did a lot of different things, and it gave me a lot of great experience. One thing I did was I taught English to immigrants in the United States. People who came, in most cases, from Central and Latin America. They went to schools that weren't nearly as good as the school you go to, or the schools that I was very privileged to go to growing up in the United States. And so I would go once or twice a week, and I would teach a couple of students every week and give them the benefit, first of just contact with me, so I could kind of give them informal advice. They could see that there was an adult or a young adult who cared about them. And then I would teach them English every week. So volunteerism is a great thing. It's a really important part of American culture. And it's something that I think is very, very natural too, and will come naturally to all of you in Poland. And I've seen it especially in the businesses and in the corporate world and all of the things that they want to do to to serve the communities in which they're so privileged to be operating. There's an expression in English that says, you can do well by doing good. And that's what volunteerism is all about. So I thought maybe with that, I would say thank you very, very much for inviting me to your school. And maybe if you have time, I'd be happy to answer any questions you have. Thank you very much.